Well, hello everyone. Jen with Laughing Lotus Wellness here with my friend Laurel Huston. Today we are back with some continued midlife confessionals and more conversation about kind of midlife layers and the things that are going on for us. So for those of you that are unfamiliar, I am a coach, and what I do is work with women to help kind of work through those layers of midlife, the things that are layered upon us with time. We're made up of layers and we heal through layers. And so that's the way that I do my coaching sessions and my coaching work with women. And I know, because I was her at 40. So I'm actually serving kind of myself, and I know what my struggle was like, and I want to help women have a different experience. And I also want us to really revolutionize the idea we have about midlife. Midlife does not have to be a crisis. Instead, it can be an awakening. I don't have my sheet in front of me that says more about that, but that's the way today is going to go. So we're probably not going to talk about it anyway. I'm probably okay. But I'm super excited to have Laurel here. We have been doing the Redefining Midlife Mastery course last week and this week. It has been a really beautiful experience. And so we're just kind of staying the course and holding space for that journey, wanting people to know it's not too late to be a part of that. We can talk about that at the end. But it's just a really great, like, we're kind of in the weeds with all of it, right? So I feel like we've been having really cool conversations and really beautiful experts come in and talk about things. We were like, let's just keep that shit going. So that is who I am, why I'm here. I'm so excited. If you're signing in, please say hey. If you're not afraid to say hey. And one of my friends last week who watched was like, I didn't want to tell you I was on there. It was a guy friend. He was like, I didn't want to be weird. And so I was like, it was not be weird at all. But anyway, so say hey, let us know who you are. Sometimes your names do not pop up in StreamYard. It's just the weirdness of it. And so please just be like, hey, it's so-and-so here. We love that. Nice to know who's here. And also, if you've got questions for us, please do not hesitate to ask us anything. Laurel, do you want to introduce any part of your journey, experience or anything, so that people just know just a little bit about you too?
Absolutely. So I am still getting it like a glitchy. So when you hop on, please tell us if you can hear us okay, if we need to get out and come back in, just because we want to make sure you can hear us. So my name is Laurel Huston. I am the Divine Feminine Enchantress and the creator of body mapping. I have been working with clients for over 20 years as well. And so I specialize more in helping women reconnect to their bodies, improve their relationships with money and intimacy. So my favorite things to talk about are your bodies, sex, and money. So, I was a cosmetologist for years. And so the three things that you're not supposed to talk about are my favorite things to talk about. And
I love it.
Except politics. I do stay away from those. Those should not be spoken of in public. Absolutely. So
or with family or holidays or
never family. So I loved being part of the Midlife Revolution with Jen. We've been working together. I was trying to think, I'm like, how long have we known each other? And I'm like, it actually hasn't been, it's been like 6 months. That's it. But we have this relationship where we're like, I think we've known each other for eternity. And it just took us a little bit longer to find each other in this life than it has in previous ones. Because as soon as we met each other, it was like, oh, I know everything about you. And then we'll say things to each other. And she's like, oh, I didn't know that. And I was like, you've known me my whole life. How did you not know that? And then I'm like, wait, no, you've only known me for about 6 months. So it's okay that you don't know that.
Yes. It is strange, the love, connection, and ease we have with one another. It is one of those beautiful blessings of life. And if you find those people, hang on to them for dear life. That's what I'm saying. Amen.
Yes.
So
hang on to them.
Same vibe I have. Exactly. So Laurel, you had an idea about something that you thought would be a really fun space to lean into today. Do you have any silly questions to start? I'm always here for a silly question. Do you have a silly question to start?
This is actually just kind of a weird question, but what is your favorite kind of tacos? Do you like fish tacos? Do you like carne asada?
This is a good thing to know about your besties in life. You should definitely know what their favorite kind of taco is. I want to say probably, honestly, this is so like generic-y. I would say chicken's probably my good standby. Like whatever kind of chicken. What about you? Because I just love all things chicken. To be honest, it's sort of like that, boring, but I like it. So
my favorite is carne asada, but I don't like a traditional taco. Like when I go to Mexico and they give me a street taco, they always look at me weird because I go con queso, por favor. I have to have cheese on my tacos.
1,000%. Here's what I say, you are not putting cheese on your taco unless it's one of those like fish ones with the, do you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah. Oh, no. Fish tacos don't need cheese.
I namaste to you, but if you're not putting cheese on a taco, it's like you're missing a DNA strand somewhere. I don't know. Yeah.
It's true.
Oh, okay. Here's my question. Okay, ready? Favorite Easter candy, because we're almost at Easter. Favorite Easter candy, where's Easter candy go?
Oh, favorite Easter candy, Reese's peanut butter eggs, because the peanut butter to chocolate ratio is just like
so good.
The trees are okay. The bunnies, there's too much chocolate. If it's a mini Reese's peanut butter cup, too much chocolate, not enough peanut butter.
Yep.
So I like hoard them year round. I buy more than is
necessary.
First, yeah. And then I just kind of spread them out throughout the year.
Yes.
Worst is when so the memory that came to me is one year my mom was a little bit delayed in buying Easter candy, and she bought jelly beans, which my whole family likes jelly beans, except none of us read the package thoroughly, and they were the spiced jelly beans. So you know how they used to have gumdrops and they were like clove-based gumdrops? Imagine that in a speckled jelly bean.
It's like a beautifully covered turd. Do you know what I'm saying? Like it's such a candy. Like anyway, yeah, I'm like all about that. No, so I'm totally here with you on peanut butter cups. That would be my favorite as well.
And if you're listening, add yours. What are your favorites? What are the ones you dislike?
I literally love peanut butter eggs. Those are my favorite, the big ones, because then again, more peanut butter, more better. And then my Peeps. Like I know they look so cute and they are disgusting to me. I'm like, if I'm roasting it over a fire, hell yes. If it's not like gonna go over a fire, I have no place. That is just the grossest. Like I can't. And so like that is definitely like a no, thank you. That is a no. I'm trying to think if there's any other creepy Easter candy. That's probably my worst. Like,
how do you feel about black jelly beans?
Ew.
I love them. You can get the bag, and they're called Black Crows, and it's a bag full of black jelly beans. But I like black licorice. I really like all of those. So,
ooh, yeah. Okay, so I know Dennis is listening. Thanks, Dennis. And Dennis also loves
Peeps cereal.
He is totally with us in the Reese's peanut butter egg thing. Totally his thing.
Peeps and then cereal sounds revolting.
Right? I can't. Anyway, I can't. So yeah, Peeps are like, they're so cute. Like I want to like them. How about this one? How about what are the eggs with the shit in them?
Oh, the Cadbury cream eggs.
Thank you. How do you sit with a Cadbury egg? Anybody want to?
I don't mind the flavor, but the texture kind of brings up a trauma response. The texture and the visual of it, it's like. The Cadbury caramel eggs, though, are quite delightful.
Those are better. I'm here for that completely because I'm with you. I'm like the ones with the white goop in the center.
No, and there's some guy on TikTok, which if I remembered his name, I'll have to look him up now. But he takes recipes from the early 1900s.
Okay.
You know, a century ago. And so he takes recipes from a long time ago and like remakes them. So he found a recipe from like the 1940s or 50s when Cadbury cream eggs first came out. And it was a recipe for a deep fried Cadbury cream egg. So I
know that guy. Jennifer says I know that guy.
He does well, like he made it. One of it was like a pinto bean cake, and he was like, "This is so good." So he takes all these like Depression era or like the 20s, 50s, like and makes them. Like homemade ranch, all this other stuff. Anyways, so he made this recipe for a deep fried Cadbury cream egg. And you dip it in like cake batter, like pancake batter, basically made from scratch pancake batter. And then you dump it in oil.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, that actually doesn't sound bad if it was caramel instead of weird cream. Because I'm like, it would be like crunchy cake and then chocolate. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you about the fake out that I had along this line. So let me go. And Kayla says, this is your quarter life bestie. Of course, Kayla.
It's true.
See you. I love it. Reese's eggs are the best always. Worst is definitely equally jelly beans and Peeps. Okay, I like jelly beans. The Starburst ones are our family favorite, just in case you've never tried the Starburst ones. But I will tell you, peeps are an abomination. Okay. And then Jennifer's going to show us a picture later of the cereal. Thank you. Gross. Dennis is here for Cadbury caramel eggs. And chocolate ones are good too.
Mm-hmm. I don't think I've ever had the chocolate. Are they chocolate on the inside?
I have no idea. I don't know.
Now I have to explore.
Jennifer said that she thinks the guy you're talking about might be on TikTok too, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
That sounded like a lot of so anyway, okay, so I go to the state fair. I love that we're talking about food. This is so stupid, but this is exactly what I wanted for our start today. And we'll get there. I promise there is actually information coming. Okay, so we go to the fair, and every year in Minnesota, the thing is everything on a stick. I don't know why we're obsessed with everything on a stick, but it's literally a thing. Okay. So here we go. We're like, we always look into like, what are the new weird foods that come out? Because every single year there's like something kind of funky, a couple of things that are really new and like novel and fun. So they're like candy bar, deep fried candy bar on a stick. This is me. Hell yes. Stand in the long ass line, get up there. We get a Snickers. I'm all excited to think about it. I'm like, this tastes like shit, yo. We're like, this is not good. It was the weirdest. So I'm gonna make a comparison to my brain thought flaky outside, crispy, crunchy, soft around the inside, right? No. It was like a not corn dog, but like thicker, weirder, and then like maybe like powdered sugar on the outside. It was awful. So
it was like a funnel cake around a candy bar?
Well, yeah, but I think even funnel cake would have been a better batter. Does that mean today I'm talking in all alliteration? You're all welcome. She sells by the teacher. Anyway, I should have practiced before I got on today. But no, they're literally like awful. We were like, okay, this is like the worst thing ever. So I like threw that out because in Madison, in one of the Mexican restaurants there called Pedro's, they have this thing called a deep fried chimichanga. It's a Snickers chimichanga. And so my brain, right, and which sounds disgusting, once you open it, also looks like poop on a plate. You have to be hearty. It's literally delicious. I mean, like it's the grossest looking dessert on the planet. It's literally delicious. So my brain thought, it's like the Snickers chimichanga, only it was nothing at all like it. And it was awful. So we threw it in the garbage. That was a fail. So that was my food fail right there. I don't know. I just clicked on something and all of a sudden I'm looking at a document. All right. That's fine. I fixed that.
Have you ever had a deep fried Twinkie?
I have not. Where are you at with that? What do you think about a Twinkie? A Twinkie is going to be around in the apocalypse.
Yeah, a Twinkie should never have been classified as edible. So I have a really good friend that tried, because I was talking about how Cool Whip is one molecule away from plastic, like Cool Whip that you get and you put on Jell-O and stuff.
That you're putting on your pie?
Yeah, that you're putting on your pie. It's one molecule away from plastic. And there's a lot of B12 like energy drinks and whatever that are like, ooh, you get this from B12. Well, methylated B12 is absorbable, but B12 that's made out of starts with a C. Anyways, it's cyanide based, like it's a derivative of cyanide. So we were talking about this, and she was like, well, my molecular biology, what is it? Microbiology teacher said that, that one molecule makes a big difference. And because your body can digest it, that it's okay to eat. And I was like, my body can digest a lot, but that doesn't mean it's okay to eat. And I feel that Twinkies fall into that category. Like just because your body can digest it doesn't mean it should.
Precisely. Yep.
So, and I had a reason for telling. Oh, so Twinkies. So I don't eat them, but we were at the state fair and they were selling deep fried Twinkies on a stick. And so we tried it.
Not good. Your face. Not good. Yeah. See, I'm telling you.
And then they tried to make it better by like putting caramel sauce on it.
And there's something about the weird insides of like things from back in the day when we were children. That sounded awkward when I said it that way. But like,
they don't taste the same though.
Debbie Cake Hostess, all that kind of like weird stuff that we had when we were kids. I don't know, man. I look back and I'm like, I can't believe I ate that shit. It's disgusting. Most of it's just, and then you try it now and it's like probably not even the same.
It's not, because Hostess went out of business when I was in college and none of the stuff has ever tasted the same since.
Yeah. Do you know the only thing that's good is the nutty bars? Those are good.
I like the Star Crunches.
That's Zach's favorite. He likes the caramely, crunchy, whatever the heck those star things. That's his favorite. Jennifer said she thinks Cool Whip is disgusting. My sister would completely comply. My sister's like a non-marshmallow whipped cream having human. Homemade whipped cream, sorry. Like I literally have the
yeah.
container at home, like the snooty coffee houses that
Uh-huh.
we make are like our own whipped
Cream.
cream for
Mhm.
waffles, coffee.
Yep.
So I'm like total snot about whipped cream. But now that I know it's one step away from being plastic, I'll never unknow that. So thank you, Laurel Houston.
You're welcome.
Thank you for that. Okay, good.
That just changed everyone's Thanksgivings. You're welcome.
Everyone's gonna be like, it's gonna be flicking off the cool when their grandma's not looking. Like,
okay, so on that same note, I had a niece, bless her heart. She's Generation Z, and she's very into food trends. And so she got vegan butter, and it was labeled vegan butter. And so I was like, what the is vegan butter? So I read through it and I go, this is margarine.
I just got the shivers. Yeah, I just got the shivers.
And she goes, no, it's vegan butter. And I go, yeah, that's called margarine. I hope you didn't pay more than 99 cents for this, because Blue Bonnet is the exact same thing as vegan butter. And she was so mad because she paid like $7 for this like one cube. Sure it was like a Land O'Lakes vegan butter. And I was like, yeah, that's called, it's margarine. And she was like, no, it's not. And so I literally went to my fridge, got, because sometimes when I make cookies, I'll use margarine, got my Imperial margarine, showed her the labels. They were the exact same ingredients. And I was like, so enjoy your $7 vegan butter.
Enjoy your Blue Bonnet that has a new name on it and it's titled vegan. Good stuff. Yeah, I've decided if I'm going to die, I think I'm going to go out with real sugar, real butter, real cream. Like I think I'm
correct. Yes.
Real cheese, full on, not low fat. I'm telling you, you've ever tried melting low fat cheese on a nacho? That shit's as close to plastic as you can get in a food. I'm not even kidding. You should see. It's like it doesn't do anything. You're like, I just applied heat to this. Like, what is happening? We did it one time. It was, and I don't even know. We didn't buy it, so it had to be some other facet that it came to my home because I don't use it. So I was like, that shit's actually not melting. It's like, again, like
so, you know, Kraft singles.
Oh yes, yeah.
Those melt, but you can also light them on fire. You can use them as fire starters.
I'm not sure what that says about them, but ew.
Well, Doritos. You can light Doritos on fire too.
Okay, but I can get down with the Dorito. I'm going to be honest.
Because it's covered in oil. So it like the oil is what burns. But yeah. I was like,
but that's cheesy goodness. If you put it in your mouth, you should really enjoy it. Thank you, Jennifer. I also know your dirty mind, Jennifer, but I'm going to just assume you're leaning into the food conversation we're having, woman. Wink, wink. Okay, Laurel, now that we've talked Easter candy, weird foods, and probably disturbed everyone with the Cool Whip notion, start us off. You had an interesting conversation that you thought would be a fun place to go, or a story, I believe, that you said. Just saying.
So we're talking about like giving advice. And one of the things that I said, I was like, yeah, the advice that you give is like a 20-year-old, 30-year-old, 40-year-old, 50-year-old, 60-year-old, 70-year-old, 80-year-old. Like it's completely different advice. It could be the exact same topic, but what's the advice? And so I was talking with my friend and we were talking post labor and delivery. And I was like, yeah, the advice that when I was like a brand new mom versus now that my youngest kid is 6 years out versus like my mom, who I'm her youngest kid and I'm 42, like what advice would you give like the post mothers, whatever? So we were talking about what is the difference between the advice you would give then and then the advice you would give now. And I'm like, yeah, I remember all these people that are like, oh, make sure you take this and this and this to the hospital and make sure this is in your bag and have a birth plan. And these were all people who were like experts. So then I actually went through labor and delivery and I was like, so here's the things that no one told you that they all should have. After labor, and everybody wants to tell you their labor and delivery story, but no one tells you after stories. Mm-hmm. And those are the stories that we should share. So this is the story that I was telling her. And I was like, okay, so your post labor and delivery and whatever shred of modesty or dignity you have after pooping on a table and having 12.5 strangers looking at your vajaz. Now they're like, okay, then the lactation specialist comes in and she's like, all right, let's see. Yeah. And she's like, okay, let's see if we can get the baby to latch. And she's like, is it okay if I like help you with this? I don't know what that means. And all of a sudden she's like fondling my breast as if she were my husband on my honeymoon night. And I'm like, what are you doing? and like shoving my baby's head up against me. And she's, okay, that's a good latch. And here's the other part, because people are like, if you're nursing properly, then it doesn't hurt. That's a lie. That is a lie. It is like toe curling pain for at least like the first 2 weeks, especially because I had so much milk that my breast was larger than my baby's head. And so it was like, okay, yeah, go ahead, fit enough of that into your mouth that this doesn't hurt as it rubs against your hard palate. So firstly, for young mothers, breastfeeding does hurt, but it goes away. Like all of a sudden one day you're like bracing for it and you like hold your kid and your toes are curled and you like got the arm of the couch and all of a sudden you're like, oh, it doesn't hurt. Like all of a sudden one day it just doesn't hurt anymore. But that's like a couple weeks out. So day after, at our hospital, they would take us up to mom and baby, which was great. And then in the middle of the night, like every 2 hours, they're like, just lay down, get some rest. And then every 2 hours, they come and wake you up to punch you in the stomach over and over and over, as they also look to see if any blood clots come out. You're looking at me confused. So clearly this did not happen to you, but I have heard
like,
hundreds of, they like knead,
they
like knead your stomach to help your uterus shrink back down and to put you back into contractions to see if you're clotting properly. So they watch you pee. They give you these one size fits most mesh underwear and this pad that's like this big.
You feel like a sexy beast after giving birth. Let me tell you something.
So then they explain to you like how to put this together. And the first time I was like, what is the glove for? Why is there a glove? So for us, they would fill a glove full of ice and then they would give you Tux hemorrhoid pads. Yes. So you would put your mattress pad in your one size fits most mesh underwear. And then you would put your glove full of ice and then you would put your Tux pads and then you would put hemorrhoid cream on that. And then they're like, now sit on it. And you're like, okay. And then you sit on it and you're like, oh, that's delightful. And then 40 minutes later, when your glove of ice has melted, you're like, I'm going to need another one of those.
I know my nurses, after like a literally traumatic birth, it is not a story for today, but my birth was anything other than ordinary. Awesome. But the next day they're finally, once Chloe's delivered and I was in labor for a long time, they were trying to stop labor. It's a whole thing. And my nurse comes, she's like, you are just the easiest patient. I thought, what the fuck? Who are you dealing with? I mean, because I wasn't like, I need a thing. I don't know what I was doing. I wasn't doing anything. I was like, oh, good. I don't know. So all I'm thinking is, I wonder who they're dealing with, that I'm somehow like the like, hey, this is an ideal client. Like, I was like, what are you? I can't even imagine. I'm sure that probably they have seen everything and then some. But because I remember the part of like ice and like sitting in the whole recovery piece. Mm-hmm. I don't think mine was a glove. I'm like, I don't think that was what, but gets the job done. It doesn't matter. But yeah, and it was cracking me up. I was thinking, oh my God, I wonder what you people deal with. If you're like, you're such a good client. I was like, oh, okay, cool. What did Jennifer say? So I made the mistake of thinking I'd immediately be able to slip into my regular pre-packed pregnancy clothes. Mm-hmm. No, ma'am. There's a lesson you don't know. Nope. Not for a little while. You're gonna be recovering for a minute. Your body is like still, ooh, and your hormones. Here's the thing they don't tell you. Here's another thing they don't tell you. And here's another thing. Oh my God, the hormones. Can I just say, I swear to you, here's what's interesting. So for a year, I know my hormones were weird and they never went back. Furthermore, so if there was any masculinity right here, they also went, ooh, and they just died. They left the room. Okay. The other thing is that my hormones and my body actually never went back to the way it was pre-pregnancy. No. At all. No. So things like I would eat garlic in any form before I had a baby. I had Chloe, and then it's like, and I can eat it. It all gives me indigestion. And I loved it. And now I'm like, it's just going to make me feel gross. I don't understand why. That never went back. Weirdest kind of shift. That was one. And then when I went to go back on birth control, because I was like, well, I'll go back. And if it'll, it was more regulatory than it was like, cool, that'll help regulate hormones. And it all made me sick.
Mm-hmm.
I had never had an issue with birth control before I had a baby. I had a baby, and every single thing I put in my body, I was like, whoa. Like I literally thought I was like how people normally feel when they're pregnant, like nauseous. I wasn't.
Mm.
I didn't have any of that. So the weirdest thing was like to have like birth control and be like, why do I feel disgusting? Like horrible. I couldn't take any of it. I had to quit. I was like, nope, oh, that's not my job anymore. Zach, good luck. Cause it's not on me. I can't. Everything was like horky. I don't even weirdest thing.
Yeah. So Jen said, don't try high heels immediately after either. No.
Also probably not a great, yeah. If you can avoid heels for a while.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So I had 3 babies, and each one, people were like, and this is the bad advice that people give you. That's actually the most important advice they can give you, but you don't listen to it all. When the baby takes a nap, take a nap. Don't worry about laundry. Don't worry about dishes. No. Well, that was fine when I had baby number 1. On baby number 2, though, I still had child number 1.
Uh-huh.
And then on child number 3, I had child 1 and 2. And everyone's like, just take a nap. So I was like, all right, it's family nap time. Everyone come watch a show. Mom's going to pass out on the couch, and you guys can all just lay on my lap while I drool on you.
It worked.
So now what I tell women is, if people come and visit you, lock yourself in your room and say, if you would like to see me or the baby when I come out of the room, I need you to have done a house chore.
Exactly. If you're going to come visit me, come bearing food, cleaning gloves.
And don't ask to hold my baby, and don't ask how I'm doing. I'm doing shit. That's how I'm doing. And don't take my baby away from me. I just spent 10 months creating this, and no one's happy to see me. Everyone wants to see the thing I created, and I get the thing that I created. So if you're going to go visit a newly birthed mother, don't ask to hold her baby. Don't ask her how she's doing. Go clean her house and say, go take a nap. Here's your baby. Go take a nap. Yeah, you need me to take your other kids for you? Let me do that too.
I'm going to tell you what, I love you, and I'm opposite of you. Here's the baby. When people came to see me,
see, I was puking my guts out though.
I know.
So I finally felt functional again. I
know. I get that.
I was like,
for sure.
Leave me alone. Don't try to take my kid away from me.
No, it was funny. Like one of my friends had a baby. We went to this big holiday function, and this is way back in the day. And he was sort of relatively new, and she brought him to the party. And I was like, oh my, can I hold him? She was like this, yeah. I was like, so you don't really want me to hold him? And this was me. So he's like, can I hold Chloe? Uh-huh. Can I see her? Uh-huh. I was like, yeah, because I'm doing all day every day. I'm good. You can take a turn. Like, oh, I was fine. Trust me. I was like, here you go. I'll see her in an hour. Like, no, I was the opposite. I was like, no, absolutely. You can hold her. And I loved her. It wasn't that I didn't. It was
no. Of course.
I'm doing it 24/7. Sure, take a turn. I'm good. Like I have 23 other hours in the day that I'll be taking care of that. So absolutely. Like, here you go. So great story. So, okay. So
Jen said, bring me gifts. Yes. Bring the mother gifts.
Bring the things. Bring the nice things, right? Mm-hmm. Take him. Exactly. I was like, bye-bye. And Chloe had colic, so that was super joyful.
Oh,
so
see, I had really tame babies.
Nope. She cried. I pumped. I felt like a human milk machine. Mm-hmm. I ate ham sandwiches. That was what I pretty much ate as a staple because it was easy. And some days I just cried between things because that was all I did. I was milking. I was cuddling, changing, feeding, and then milking again. And it was the same. It was like Groundhog Day in the worst possible human way. Like, I'm not even kidding you. I was like, I think I might be strung out. Like, I just did things. Like, I don't think you don't know what you don't know. Like, I was like, every woman goes through this. I'm made of steel. I can do hard things. Like, you know what I'm saying? I'm like, this is fine. And also I'm like, actually, this is maybe not fine. I'm like, I don't know that you're supposed to be this miserable. And like, maybe everybody doesn't have a baby that's doing this. Right. So finally, like then my mom and my mother-in-law were like, coming to the rescue, and which was a huge help. But you don't know what you don't know. I just think it's all of that. Like anyway, but yeah, it's just that whole experience is something else. I tell you, it's like it is something else.
Well, so I was like, okay, so what is the advice now? And it's interesting because this was my point with this is we will give people the advice that we will tell people. Treat people this way because that's how we wanted to be treated. Like I wanted to be left alone. I wanted people to just give me my space and let me have this, especially with my first baby, because I only had 6 weeks of maternity leave.
Okay.
And so after 6 weeks, she was in like 8-hour a day daycare. And I was like, I only get her for 6 weeks. Leave me alone.
Yeah, I get that.
And so that's like, I'm like, no, like give the mom time with their baby, where you're like, oh my gosh, the advice I would give is invite as many people over as you can and have them take your baby.
I love it.
So with it, it was like, okay, when I give advice now, I ask them, what are you wanting? Like, what would actually help you feel supported?
Exactly. Yeah.
And so now I don't give advice. I ask questions.
I think that's a huge thing. I think in midlife, that's a piece of just talking with a coaching client today too about a relational thing she was going, geez, somebody hits, that was almost a catastrophe, about a relationship thing she's going through, and she's trying to figure it out. And so we were having this conversation about, rather than wanting to know what's going to happen in the future, which is like a natural inclination, can you lean back and can you instead ask what he's needing? Because what he is saying to you is that he needs to be seen and heard. And so right now, because he's in a really difficult space, instead of tripping forward or conversating the hell out of things, which is kind of our natural inclination, particularly for those of us that are wired for anxiety. So I'm like, let's solve the problem yesterday. And this client's wired the same way. So I totally get her. We were talking about, it's more important maybe to actually ask what somebody needs than to be trying to fix or plan, or right. It's like sometimes I think the hardest thing that I've had to learn personally, this is completely personal, this is not just like client stuff or co-coaching work, is shut up. No, I mean, really, shut your face. Like because I like, and I like to help. I want to support. So there's this it comes from a very good space.
Absolutely.
But I think with time, it was like, stop talking, like be present listener, and then say, what do you need from me? How can I help? And also be okay when someone's like, I don't know what I effing need, because I think sometimes that's where we're at, right? I think that's another piece, is that sometimes we don't know what we need. And so I think it can be both of asking that question and just creating space and saying, if you don't know, I respect that. Just know that when and if you do realize that there's something I can be here for, please let me know. That is a totally different way to make space for someone to have their experience that I think is so validating. Yeah. And I think that inclination to fix and lean in and like, well, I'm going to tell you what to do, right? Shut your face. Like, I just think, do yourself a solid and see what happens if you cannot lean into that inclination first. Sit back, listen, honor, witness, and make space. Space makers are literally some of the most beautiful people on this planet. It is definitely a skill I have to work on. And so it's not a natural space. Even though I was a therapist for a gazillion years, I do think that is a huge difference for me from like a solving the problem kind of thing. And so I don't know, that's probably one of my takeaways is let's sometimes just shut our faces, sit back and listen and make space rather than solving.
This for me, because I actually really agree with what you just said. And this for me is what actually allowed me to get there and to do that. I stopped caring if I was understood. And here's what I mean by that. When people are like, oh, I've had this or this or this or this. And you're like, oh yeah, me too. We share those experiences of, oh, look, I'm just like you, because we're trying to say, I understand you, but that's what we think we're doing. But what we're actually doing is, ooh, that means you can understand me. So I'm going to tell you that we're alike because now you understand me better. Right. And when I went, I don't care if I'm misunderstood, because I spent a lifetime trying to be like, no one understands me. No one understands what I do. No one understands my business. And then I went, okay, well, that doesn't actually stop people from doing what they want to do. Like, if you were to ask me what my sister does in her job, I'd be like, I got nothing. I can tell you what her title is, but I have no idea what she does. And that doesn't mean that she's less capable of doing it or showing up for it or being successful in it. And as a business owner, this was something that I would be like, well, people just don't understand what I do. It wasn't people, it was my family. And I was like, this isn't people don't understand. I have literally thousands of clients. People understand what I do. It was the people that I was like, why don't they understand what I do?
Right.
Well, even if they do understand what I do, would it change the fact that I'm doing it?
Nope.
So when I went, people don't have to understand me for me to actually continue to show up And what it did was it made me go, okay, I don't need you to understand me. What you need right now is to be heard. You don't even need to know that I understand what you're saying. You just need me to sit here and listen. So here's my tip. I count in my head. When people are telling me things.
You're counting like 1, 2, 3, like counting sheep?
Yeah. Because then I don't, because I mean, and I'm still actively listening, but in my head, I'm like, 1, 2, and then it puts me back to focus. And then I get really intent on the conversation. And then as soon as the thought comes to my head that it's like, ooh, share this to show her how much you're alike, I go 1, 2, 3, 4, until I can refocus on what they're telling me. And so here's the next tip if you do this, because sometimes you'll be like, I want to be such a good listener. And I'm just going to count in my head and I'm not going to fix their problem. And then they'll ask you a question and you'll go, oh no, I was counting in my head. I don't know the question. So here's what you say. That's a good question. Ask me that in another way.
Oh my God. Well, when you do this next time, I'll be like, how high did you count?
Okay, then think about how brilliant that is, because now all of a sudden they're like, okay, how else could I ask that question? And now you get to hear the question again without being like, I wasn't listening to you, because I actually was listening. I was giving them exactly what they needed. Yeah. And I was letting them speak their piece and letting them say what they needed to say. I wasn't interrupting. I wasn't fixing them. I wasn't seeing them as broken. I wasn't seeing me as the authority and them as the beneficiary of my knowledge and wisdom. I was just letting them speak.
Yeah. No. Yeah. Well said. That's interesting.
And me saying, ask me that in another way, makes them think about the deeper question and be like, okay, this is what I'm actually asking. Yeah. So I get them to ask me better questions, so then I can give them a better answer.
Yeah. No, well said.
It's brilliant.
No, well done. I like your two-part system. I don't know. I'm trying to think of how I did that, because as a therapist, I listened for a gazillion years. It was part of, so it is, I think for me, the listening is not so bad. It's the opening of the mouth. It's knowing when you're actually required to say something and when it's really just that you need to sit with someone and honor where they're at and not just solve, which is still one of those things I think I'm endlessly going to be working on. But I think, yeah. So one of the things I just had a thought a minute ago. Oh, darn it. See, this is what happens. This is also midlife. I had a thought about what is different in midlife. I think I know one is caring less about what people think, being able to be a little bit freer in that, which I think takes time. I know that we talked some in women were talking about confidence, wanting to be confident in midlife. So that was one, and not giving a shit about what people think. I'll come back to it if I come back to it. Do you have another one? Because that was a minute, it went right out my brain because I was listening.
Well, okay. So as you were talking about confidence, I went, okay, so this for me, confidence has actually changed a lot, because me wanting to be confident in like my teens and early 20s, I wanted to be confident so that I would be accepted. Mm-hmm. Now, as I get older, I want to be confident because I don't care if I'm rejected. It's totally like, are you playing the game to win or are you playing the game not to lose?
Exactly.
And so it's one of those that I'm like, I am now confident because I'm showing up in authenticity, which I know was a huge buzzword 5 years ago. Everyone was authentic, and then it was embodied, and now it's empathic. And anyways, so for me, it was like, no, confidence for me now means regardless of how I show up, whether you reject me or accept me, I am confident in myself, not in how you perceive me. Where when I was younger, the confidence that I was searching for was, okay, if I show up like this, now do you like me?
Yeah. Yes, exactly. If I morph into this, is this more acceptable? Is this, I definitely did quite a bit of that when I was young as well. Yeah. I think I'm definitely in a different space that way. When you say it, cause it's more for me, like, if I feel good about what I do, the rest will follow. I don't need to impress you. I don't need to do something for you so that it's okay. And like, not being understood, it's really well said, like the not being understood piece. So I had a client that I did a consultation call with, beautiful woman, and we're having this great conversation. She's like, I'm really interested in doing some, coaching and mentoring with you. And it's just like, my husband was like, wanted to get on a call with you and rebut everything you had to say. which I just like burst out laughing. I'm like, I don't even take it personally. I'm like, listen, I'm like, I understand if you don't understand who I am or what I do or what we do, everyone is not going to get this. I don't have an expectation that everyone gets who I am, what I'm about, what I do. If you don't take the time to sit and show up to that table and conversation with open ears, there is no point in having a conversation, which was, I was like, that's okay. I'm like, listen, you need to do what's comfortable for you and your family. That's your partner. I respect that. Full respect. Namaste. Best wishes. If it ever works, you want to circle back, cool. If he's never on board, cool. I'm not going to lose sleep over that. But I do hear that. And I think it took me a really long time to get to a space where even in the field of psychology, right? So people look at what you and I do. And I think there can be this kind of inclination for people to be like, it's a bunch of woo. It's a bunch of woo shit. Energy work, Reiki, blah, blah. First of all, I have a degree. I have a master's degree and I was in the field of psychology for 20 years. I did not pick up a certification off the ground and hang a shingle and be like, ta-da. Okay. So that's number one. But also, so much of the things that we do are based in science. And so they can sound woo to your ears. And also, and this is a thing that I think is so true for myself as well. I thought all the shit was weird till I did it.
Uh-huh.
If you'd asked me 6 years ago about Reiki, I'd have been like, Reiki schmeiki. Like one of my friends and I were laughing about it because really it's like, okay, you magically float your hands over someone and some shit happens. Okay. I mean, it sounds so stupid. So if you're science-based, I think it can be really tough to like buy into things that don't sound as tangible to your ears. And without any actual experience or without kind of leaning in and learning more about it, it is something that sounds like it's a bunch of weirdness. It just does. And I respect it. So it's why when she was telling me, I had a good laugh because I'm like, 6 years ago, I would have laughed about some of the shit I now offer as services. And I would not have necessarily known the value. Do you know what I mean? And like full circle, I'm cool that you don't get me. I'm cool that you don't get my work. I'm not going to get you on a phone call and try to convince you of what I do is of service and value because I could do that. And in the day I would have ruminated about it. I would have been like, but it's psychology and it's science and energy is science and our bodies are made up of energy. We carry energy. Read the books, Peter Levine, anyone? Like it's literal. It's out there. It's like what I mean. So I don't, when people are like, oh, it's a bunch of woo, I'm like, actually it's not.
Nikola Tesla. I'm like, you can go all the way back to Nikola Tesla. You can go back to Einstein. This is not new.
It's not new. And so I think it's interesting to hear, but I think the difference, and again, this was the takeaway was I'm like, I'm not arguing my value with you. I'm not going to tell you all about it because unless you show up and you say, Jen, tell me about this. You show up with an open mind. I'll freaking tell you all about it. I'll talk about the cows come home. I'm not afraid to do that. But if you're like, this is a bunch of mumbo jumbo and I see you, I get you, I could raise you 6 chips because been there, done that. I understand. I full respect, but I don't need you to understand it. I don't need you to get it. I hope for my client at some point she gets the capacity to do some work for herself, but that's all. I'm like, oh, cool. That's fine. Whatever.
So it's really interesting to me because so I have one of my degrees is in communication. So I had to study body language and persuasion and which PS having a degree in communication gets me out of jury duty because the defending attorney will, tell me a little about yourself. I always start off with, I have a degree in psychology and a second degree in human development and communication. And I studied persuasion and body language. And the defendant is always like, pass.
Yep. No thanks. Yeah, they asked me some question when I was on jury duty. I forget what it was. And they were like, are you biased? I'm like, yes. Because they asked me because they knew what my profession was. Because this was last year that I think I got called.
Oh,
don't even start because I will get on a soapbox that no one will get me off of. So I get called exactly times. Zach has been called exactly 0 times. Jennifer's been called 3. Anyway, so I'm sitting there and I make it all the way to getting to go to court in the courtroom and be asked these questions. They're like, are you biased? Which actually was. I did not lie, but I was like, and I know a lot of stuff. Like, I'm just going to tell you as a social worker with a background in social, I'm like, you're very brave. You must think I'm going to come in here and be all like, I don't bleeding hurt, whatever. But they were like, are you going to be biased? I was like, yep. I have a family member that had experience with this, which was true. So I was like, whew. I did not get called for that one. That was by the skin of my teeth. I was in the room. I was like, ah. Anyway, enough about jury duty, but this is why they don't want us anyway. But
It's
yeah,
true.
exactly. So yeah, just very interesting. Go ahead.
So I would say, so because there's now science behind body language, it's like this cool thing. But I was like, except body language didn't even become a field of study until the 20s.
Mm-mm.
So body language is less than 100 years old. And
Mhm.
yet some people are like, it is such a hard science now. And I'm like, it's still a soft science. I mean, there's a lot of, I'm like, but it's like, okay, so then if you add another layer in that and you go, okay, well, body language actually comes from the mind. Body language has nothing to do with the body. So then I teach about the language of the body, not body language, the language of your body. And the language of your body speaks through sensations. It speaks through symptoms. It speaks in a different way because the language of your body is different than the language of your head, which is also different than the language of your spirit. And it's so interesting because just like you were saying is, 10 years ago, if you'd have told me that I would not only be offering breath work, I'm like, when people are like, so what do you do? I'm like, I teach people how to breathe and have better sex because I'm a Tantra coach. And so people are like, if you'd have told me 10 years ago that that's what I would be doing, I would be like, I'm going to have people pay me to teach them how to breathe. Okay.
Yeah.
And yet I have a full list of clientele that are like, I need to do breath work. Cool. Yeah. Let's do breath work. And so one of my coaches told me this several years ago, and it's never left me. Just because it's uncomfortable to hear doesn't make it less real or less true. And I feel like with the woo part of it, because even if it's not woo, is it uncomfortable to hear that after you have a baby, they're going to give you one size fits most mesh underwear and a pad that is this big? Like I have bras that are smaller than the pad they wanted me to put in between my legs. Okay. Is that uncomfortable to hear? Yes, but that doesn't make it less of a reality.
No, I mean, that's so true. It's like, it's really, to me, even today doing a coaching call with a client of mine. And so I was like, so I'm listening and I'm taking in what she's, and the current thing she's working through. And I go, so cool. So we're going to talk about that. And I'm going to tell you some shit you're not going to want to hear. I go, I've known you a minute. I'm going to say it like it is. She's like, that's why I'm calling you. I'm like, done and done. And so to me, it's, and I said this, and this is different. This is a different thing, I think, from younger years. I think back in the day when people would have given me feedback, suggestions, accountability,
constructive criticism
I think I would have been like, oh, and I could take it, but it went, oh, now I'm like this. My best friends, the people that are in my innermost world, are people that I would look at and be like, freaking bring it to me. Call me out. What are you seeing? So it is so interesting to me that with age, and what's interesting to me is my ideal clients are like, bring it. They're also like, I'm here and I'm talking about this because I'm ready to hear what you have to say. You have insight and wisdom about something that's going to be different than what I'm able to get from my girlfriends or my partner, whomever. That's why I'm here. And so it was like a really fun conversation because I could just point blank be with her and say, these are the things that I see. These are the cycles that you're experiencing. I value all that. I get you. I see you. I feel you, whatever. But this is the stuff that I see that I think is going to be really helpful. She was like, I needed to hear that.
Okay. But that's why it's called a blind spot. You cannot
see your own blind spot. Jesus, we all have them.
You can't see your own blind spots. That's why the best coaches have other coaches, have other healers, have other people that they could talk to and turn to. And because and so when it is interesting though, because when I first got started working with coaches, it was like, oh, I'll work with anyone who says anything that's right. And now I'm like, I don't even know what you teach. It's your vibe. Like vibes became much more important to me. Yeah. I think the older that I get, because there are certain truths that I have come to recognize. One of which is every person has a people pleaser as part of them. Every person has a procrastinator that's part of them. Every person has a permission seeker that's part of them. And every person will use those as defense mechanisms.
Absolutely.
And so I'm like, and I'm not going to judge you for that. I'm just I'm going to ask myself, which protector is showing up in your personality right now? And what can I do to help you feel more safe?
Exactly.
So as you mentioned girlfriend, and it's something that I used to teach my clients. So for those of you that are in the Midlife Mastery course that we're doing right now, the class I'm talking about is on love and intimacy. And one of the things that I didn't mention in there, but now I'm like, ooh, I should have. So I hope you watch this video. When you are working on an intimate relationship, especially with your lover, your partner, your spouse, whatever, but someone that is male, don't treat him like he is your girlfriends that you go to brunch with or your diary. Buy a journal.
You're like, no, actually go get a journal.
So, like spiral notebooks. You can get them for $1 when school starts. Exactly. Buy a journal. Stop using your spouse as your journal. Go to brunch with your girlfriends, and because they will understand the narrative that you're giving them. Stop getting angry at your husband because he doesn't understand your narrative, because it's kind of like when Jen and I were talking about our post-labor experiences. She was like, take my baby. And I was like, how dare you? That is the same thing that we will talk about things that are really hard for us. And the men in our life they're like, I don't even, like, my brain doesn't even process what you just said. And now you're mad at me because I am trying to fix it. And and it's like, stop treating them as your diary. When I stopped treating my husband as my journal, our relationship completely changed. But I needed that outlet. And so it was like, okay, I need somewhere else to go with this. Here is one thing that I'll say though. And this is the more important reason why I say don't make him your journal. I burn pages in my journal. So there are certain times where I'm like, ooh, if I say that out loud to my husband, I can't burn that later.
That's true. No, that's well said. Well said.
So I will write it in my journal. And then if I'm like, ooh, I hope that no one ever rereads this, myself included, then rip it out.
Yeah. No, I like
do that if it's your spouse.
That's so tangible. And I also like that as a tangible action. I'm always like a really big fan of things that feel tangible for us to do. I think to piggyback on that, when you say that, what I think of is about the million times I wish I had a penny for every time I said it to someone, that ever putting all your eggs in one basket is just a bad idea. I'm sorry. It's just a bad idea. We can love our partners and spouses to death. And my husband's been my best friend our entire marriage. It's definitely my relationships. My deepest relationships are always steeped in friendship first. Every one of them. That is where they begin and that is where they end. But I know I'm going to go through things that I can't expect him to understand. Will he listen? Absolutely.
Yes.
Will his inclination be to solve it? Absolutely. He's gotten better going, oh, I'm starting to do that wanting to solve thing. I'll step back and just listen. Great job. That's come with time and conversation, communication. But I definitely do think that's like really just a pivotal piece, is understanding that if any one person becomes sort of your focal for like every single, like, I'm having the bad, I'm having a worse day, oh my God. And one person's always like the receiving receptacle of it. We honestly, like, I don't want to defeat anybody. You can wear people out.
Yes.
Now, back in the day, I was a psychotherapist. I had people that had mental health issues that aggravated that for them, right? So that it's a little bit different, but I still think it's so smart to have a variety of places, whether that's healers, therapists, coaches, friends, spreading out, right? I think there is something about spreading out that because what I want you to think about too is, right, what Laurel and I are talking about is it's energy. So it's not just words. It's not just having to listen to it. It's if I'm coming at you and I'm coming at you, and today was so bad. And back in the day, years and years and years ago, one of my colleagues was like, Jen kind of stresses me out because in the morning I'll come in and the first thing she'll do is come in and talk about something that was stressful. And I was like, oh, he's right. It was a really good, I wouldn't say it was every day, but I think he was having this experience though, that I was coming in, and it was just because I trusted him. It wasn't that I expected him to fix it. I trusted him. I was just having conversation, but I was like, aha, I put my eggs in one basket to talk about that work stress. I had to back up and shift that myself. So we're all susceptible to it, but I do think that there is something really powerful about not putting all of your stuff energetically think about what that's like for the receiver. It's like, it's just nice if it's shaken up a little bit, but also different people have different perspectives. I like talking to a handful of people because what I'll do is I'm processing the whole time. Sometimes I just talk myself into my own solution, but also you're going to have a different piece of feedback and information, then so-and-so is going to have a piece of it. So what I would do is I would chat and then I would put that all together and be like, what's my solution? But I very much like the idea of like not having it be that you treat people exactly the same way because they're not wired the same. They're not going to offer the same solution, which praise God for that. Right. But also thinking about, thank the Lord, but thinking about, can I also make sure that I'm taking care of myself by spreading this out, right? So that people are not always on the receiving end. If I'm going through a really hard minute, I don't want one person to be the point of reference for every single slight, every single hard moment, every single, like that's hard to sit with, and we can check in with someone and say, is this feeling like too much for you? If you're ever feeling like you're like, uh-oh, I'm leaning into this space. And then it's up to somebody to be really honest with you and say either, yeah, like it's, it'd be good to have another conversation other than that relationship you're having with your mom or whatever it is, right? I'd like to know you in all of the layers of who you are, not just this one pointed piece that's kind of uncomfortable right now. So I'm not encouraging you not to talk to your people, but I would say if you find yourself sort of consistently going to one person, a partner, or someone else, it might not be a terrible idea to be like, how's this going for you? And then be willing to really receive the answer, right? You don't ask a question that you aren't willing to hear the answer to. But I feel like I was grateful today. My coaching client was like, I know I can call my besties, but I also knew that today I needed someone that understood mental health history, that understood where my partner might be sitting, that would call me out on my shit, that wasn't just going to let me get away with something or not look at what's happening in this pattern that I've going. It's different. And so it's so beautiful to have a variety of humans. I will say, just to piggyback on what you said, I agree. And you want to not burn your people out. So just saying. Yeah. Because if we're in a way, and I'm talking if you're really in a bad way for an extended period of time, might be time to spread that out. Anything else, Laurel, that you can think of from like a thing that you would say? I think I definitely would say the last one is something about grief, but I don't want to spend a lot of time on it. But do you have another one that you're like, I would also say something different about the advice I would give when I was younger?
Ooh, probably the different advice that I give now is, how do I want to say it? Because I'm looking at the time, so I want to keep it short.
I know.
Oh, and somebody said, it says Facebook user, so I apologize. I don't know. It says, I like to ask people, I like to ask if they have space to hold for me because I talk about something stressful. You guys, that takes such a beautiful and mature individual.
We're like, mwah, mwah. We love it.
Able, and this is, I actually will do this for my husband. And this is something that, when we were first married, we did, but then there was so much wounding because I was still, and this is, okay, I'm not making sense because I'm not finishing my sentences. I had so many wounds later on in my marriage because at the beginning of my marriage, I made my husband my journal. Mm-hmm. And he, in an effort to protect me, wanted to fix my problem, but I felt unheard and unvalidated. Right. And so that's one of the reasons I say, don't make your husband your journal. Because if you're trying to connect through words and he's fixing you during this conversation, it actually invalidates you even more. And then you just get more and more and more pissed off. Mm-hmm. So, okay. I don't remember where I was going with that. Crickets. I don't know. This is why though. When you were talking, this is just a fun fact because I like fun facts. When you were talking about words and energy, mm-hmm. I love finding the root words of words. And one of the root words of grammar is grimoire, mm-hmm. which is where people would keep their it's a book of spells. So spelling and grammar are both rooted in magic. Mm-hmm. So I like to remind myself that my words are magic and I want to be sharing that magic with the people I'm having my conversations with. So whether that is my husband, my best friend, my client, mm-hmm. how can I create a spell that connects us? Mm-hmm. And so this is why you have those friends that you do go into like this deep dive. So for me, I'm like, I I agree with what Jen said, like spread it out, because if the only connection you have with someone is death and dismemberment and whining and
Death and taxes.
yeah, death and taxes, it's like, it's called a trauma bond, and it's something for you to evaluate. Why do I feel the need to connect through people through trauma?
Exactly.
And so not that you can't have those conversations with people, do not misunderstand Jen and I.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
but if every conversation you're having is rooted in a trauma bond, what other spells can you create? What other words can you share? What other magic can you give?
Mm-hmm. I love that. And asking, and whoever said that, Facebook user, so sorry, whoever said that, they ask if someone has space to hold, that is such beautiful spiritual work. Kudos to you. Not just self-awareness, but spiritual work to say to someone, I understand that I have some things I might need to get at, and it might be heavy. And is this a good time and space for you? To me, just asking that question is starting that dialogue. And so just whoever you are, like, great work. That's all I want to say is great work.
Yeah.
And so beautiful. And then last piece for me, I would say, I think, and I know we could talk about grief till the cows come home, but I would say one of the areas as a clinician that I think, and I didn't fail in it, I just didn't step into it because I didn't know it. I didn't have a relationship with grief. I had lots of grief in my life. I had lots of losses and traumatic experiences and things like that. So I had grief, but I don't think I knew it in the form of a loss until I lost my mom. And I think that what's very interesting when that happened is I thought, I feel so bad for all the work that I did. And not because I was not conscientious or compassionate, but because when you have lost something significant enough, you understand that you have a relationship with it. And so I started to design that, just like, the 5 steps of grief, or the which is fine. And I'm not like, it's beautiful knowledge. It so underestimates the effects of grief. And it also limits, and people have these ideas about how they're supposed to be doing it. And so it was easy for me to rely on that knowledge, right? Book knowledge and things like that, because I didn't have my own experience to kind of stand in. And then when I lost my mom, I was like, oh my God, and started completely talking differently about grief. As I aged, did yoga training, I started having a different conversation about honesty. So as I've aged, where I started and I was very firm and I was very rooted, and I think I probably tended to be a little bit more black and white. Like, well, this is how we do the things, right? And when you're new and you're full of knowledge from books and academia and education or whatever it is you did, then you sort of rely on it as like rote. And I think that with time, it was like, yeah, I'm not so sure that's accurate either. And I think you learn to sort of discern for yourself what's really needed. And so I think with time and growth and expansion, the content of those conversations was wholly different. Like from when I started to like where I was. Now that's clinical, but that's also personal, right?
Yeah.
Because it's experience that's coming into the room, not just clients, but your own. And so I think for me, I look back and I think, boy, I almost have compassion for the people that I wish I had known my own experience of grief and a relationship with it differently, because I think I held space differently then.
Yeah.
But so many things were like that, like, where I was and what I thought I knew, and then having your own experience, then going, oh, this is really hard. And again, it wasn't that I wasn't compassionate in the first place, but having a different kind of experience with something, you show up different energetically.
Yes.
And that was a piece that for me, I wished I had thought or known more about energy proper that I would have brought to my clients. I wish that those were things that I had said or done differently, because while we were doing really important healing work, I think that it was a piece that probably so many clients needed. And I didn't have the language. You can't know what you don't know. But now I'm like, oh, like I can look at my old clients and just think, oh, shoot, I really wish I had this skill or this tool to be able to use for them, because it would have made maybe a really big difference for them. So those are probably my biggies. Anyway.
My biggest one, when I look back at my beginner clients versus my clients now, is when I first started teaching personal development, I bought into the very masculine version of personal development. And now, thank goodness, some of my clients have stuck with me long enough that I can be like, ooh, I have to unteach you what I taught you previously.
And that's exactly, yeah, the unteaching. But I think that's a lot of, even with time in my therapy practice, I was unteaching some of the things I thought I knew. And I think maybe a midlife takeaway that is can you make space for that? Can you make space for the unlearning? Can you make space for the fact that We're all doing what we can do the way that we know it. And so I don't beat myself up about, client work from the past, because you could only work with what you know and what you have.
Yep.
And so it's about making space for yourself to grow and expand, and understand that then sometimes it is full circle, that you'll go back to someone that you've spoken with, and you have this one belief system, and you go back and go, so remember that thing we talked about? Remember, honesty is the best policy in every single form. I have a different idea about it. And I would just laugh, and my clients would laugh, and it was this great conversation. And I think, to me, there's something that's so humbling about showing up also and saying, you know what, I don't know that I had that right. It's humbling, and it's humility, and it's humanity. And it doesn't make you wrong, broken, or otherwise.
And it gives other people permission to make change as well.
Exactly. That's what you're doing, is you're modeling that all the time. The minute that you step in and lean into that space, you're actually giving someone else permission to be in the same place. And so there's something really powerful happening in that. And I think that for a part of midlife of the journey, not midlife right now, I think there was like a beating myself up. How come you didn't know this? How come you didn't give the right answer? How come you couldn't just, because you only have limited experience, Jennifer.
Because at the time I didn't know it.
Because I didn't know what I didn't know. And so I think it's very different now in midlife to go, it's actually kind of strangely refreshing to go back now and be like, yeah, we're going to redo that. Because with time and wisdom, I feel really differently about that kind of mind space. And to me, it's giving permission to somebody else to be in the same spot. So anyway, just another last one that I thought was good. You and I could talk all day long, and I love it. So that's why we're doing this. Okay. So anyway,
my allergy meds are wearing off, because we actually have our lawn is covered in blossoms, and everyone else is in snow. And I'm like, yeah, my lawn is white because it's covered in apricot blossoms. So mine
is white from snow, which makes me want to stab someone in the face. Anyway, so listen, here's the deal. Laurel and I, as always, want to thank you for listening and leaning and hanging out with us. We're so grateful for it. We just love each other. We love sharing and engaging time with you, even if it's about weird, bad state fair food, or food that we'd rather burn ourselves and eat, like marshmallows, Peeps. But also we want to just mention that Midlife, Redefining Midlife Mastery course. We're almost to the end. But tomorrow is the panel, which is still a great thing if you want to get the material. It's recorded. The first panel is recorded. You're going to miss the opportunity to ask a question live, true story, but the rest of it you're going to get. And so you're going to have that opportunity to go in and listen. And last week's panel was a blast. That's all it was actually so fun. And we had such a good conversation. It was fun to have different experts in the room to ping off of each other. Mm-hmm. So it was super. So I'm just going to say the material is so good. So you have 10 days once this is over to glean and go in and back and watch. So actually you're still really sitting in a great space, because that was one of the things my client reached out. She's like, Jen, I've been crazy and been able to listen to my stuff. I'm like, cool, it's still there for 10 more days when we're done. You got it. You're good. She's like, phew. So you got plenty of time. So if you still decide there's a reason that you want to lean into midlife, some of the things that Laurel and I are talking about, you've heard us kind of speak. Well, I haven't spoken a lot to what I teach people, but you've kind of heard us glean into the areas that we serve women, how we work with people. So if you're interested in learning some of that, that is a great space to go as hey, I want to get my head around this idea, right? I want to start a journey somewhere. And this is a really beautiful space to start revolutionizing the kind of relationship you have with midlife. So if you'll want that, Laurel can maybe put the link in for me.
Yeah.
Thanks, friend. If you don't have it, I can do it. So if you don't have it, I don't have it either. I lied. I was going to I can do it. I can't, because recently I shut my computer down and there went my link. So if she will be helpful, she'll be my helper and do that for me. If you're interested, great. If you're not, that's okay. So Laurel and I will be back around. Laurel and I love hosting things together. So you will definitely see her face around again. I'm going to show up in her community as well. And so just know that we're here. We love questions. So if there's anything we talked about today that you want to toss in there, whether it be candy, or whether it be child course, or whether it be about the lessons you learned in midlife, the old advice you gave that probably has completely shifted gears. We love to hear that, and we love questions. So please let us know. Where we will always, always, always come back, circle back, and engage with you. That is the stuff that we love to do. So be looking for more. I know that we'll have things coming up, the workshops, etc. I've got one coming up that's going to be about renegotiate, redefining, and revising your midlife self-care toolbox. That will be an event that's going to be mid-month. So I will be circling back and helping women deal with the layers of their being. So we're going to just kind of go in and take a fresh look at things. It's spring. It's a perfect time for this. Laurel, is there anything that you wanted to throw out there to people before we close for today?
I I don't think so. I'm trying to find the link. I had it saved and now it's not showing up. So
here we go. Here we go. Here we go. I can help with this. I can do hard things and I can do multiple things at once. Is that right? It's right. I got it. I got it, everyone. Now I can't find where I was. Okay, it's fine. It's fine. So yeah, let me get there. I'm working on.
I needed to delete the hashtag. That's why it wasn't working.
Oh, did you get it?
Hold on.
That's funny. I got it. Boom. There. So it's in there. Thanks. Sorry about that. I threw you under the bus by asking you last minute.
You're good.
So it's still there. We definitely suggest that even though you haven't been there the whole time, you're going to still get the same content. So please feel free if you're interested in doing that. Otherwise, follow us, listen and lean in for more different events that'll be coming up, things like that. Laurel and I, like I said, will be back around doing some things I'm sure I'm going to have her on the podcast. So you can listen and lean in for that. But always, as always, feel free to ask us questions of any kind. We love that. So Laurel, thanks again for being here again this week. This was super fun. I love having you. It's just really fun to, like I said, ping back and forth with another person that's doing this work. I think that's so fun. And it's just neat to hear different perspectives. And I hope you all are gleaning something from having two people here as well that are talking from different kinds of sides of things. I think that's brilliant. But Laurel, thanks again, as always, my dear. And thank you all for leaning in and hanging out with us. Until next time, we will see you, but always supporting you on your midlife revolution. Much love to everyone. Take care, everybody, and have a great afternoon. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks, guys.